We could start this program by saying Gordy Little since 1937, or we could start this program by saying post 125 VFW Boynton Avenue, Plattsburgh since 1937. So I guess we'll do both. Len Skillen, how are you?
Very good, Gordy.
He's the commander of this joint, and he keeps bugging me. He wants to be state commander, and I don't know if I can.
Don't believe that.
I was trying to think as you walked over here how many years you and I have known each other. What year did you come to town here with the Air Force?
Well, when I first came here was in 1963.
2 years after I did, so we've known each other.
Well, I didn't really know you at that point.
Well, that's your fault. That's not my problem.
The Air Force unfortunately sent me away twice, but I came back, you'll notice.
The cat came back.
That's right.
They
Yes,
said
I
he was
did.
a goner, but he just came back.
Yes, I did.
Well, I've known you for a long time. You're a Joni James fan, and when I was on the radio, Len used to call me up all, Gordy, got any Joni James music?
I'd listen all Sunday morning and not one Joni James
He whined
song.
and he whined and he whined, and I finally made him a tape.
Right, yes, you did.
You probably still got it somewhere in your sock drawer.
Yes, I have, and I've enjoyed it many times.
How did you get hooked up with this VFW, Len?
Well, when I came back from Vietnam, my brother was the post commander in Rome, New York, and I was down there visiting him one time, and he said to me, "You have to join this outfit." I says, "Why is that?" He says, "I could be your guest." He said, "No, you got to join." He says, "You were in Vietnam, and that's what it's all about. Anybody that's served in a combat zone is eligible for membership, for one thing, in the VFW." And so it didn't take him long to talk me into it. But so I've been in it ever since. I retired from the Air Force up here in Plattsburgh, and of course I ultimately transferred my membership to this post.
It's a good post. I've been connected with it incidentally through the years. I've been to a lot of functions. When I first started coming here, it wasn't nearly this big huge room. Got added on somewhere along the way. Mm-hmm. And we've had some nice functions here together, you and me, for the last couple of years, celebrating anniversaries. This year happens to be the 65th anniversary of Post 125. And Len was kind enough to invite me to say a few well-chosen words and eat a few well-chosen bites of good food here on a recent Saturday night, and that was a good time, huh?
Yes, it was. One other thing that we can boast of, the senior surviving past national commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars is a member of our post. That's Mr. Clyde A. Lewis.
You have to say it, Clyde A. Lewis. You got to say it like Bornstein says it.
I heard Joe Bornstein say that a number of times in a number of testimonials that I had the privilege to attend, so I guess I'm probably mimicking him slightly. But
those testimonial dinners were not forgettable, believe me. They were wonderful, entertaining so many people, big and small, from all over the United States and all over the world down through the years. Joe Bornstein remembered how many testimonials he went to and how many Clyde didn't make it to. And as you know, this was Clyde's baby.
Oh, sure.
This Plattsburgh Air Force Base Liaison Committee was Clyde's baby. And it was a wonderful idea that I kind of got attached to very early in my radio career because I thought it was important for a community and an air base such as this to accept each other and meet somewhere in the middle. And didn't they do a good job at that over the years? Huh?
I would say so, yes. The community relations with the base were outstanding. I had been at a number of installations, and I would say the relations with the local community were second to none, any place I've ever been.
That's great. It's always been a pleasure. Of course, Clyde is still very much around, and the old soldier's still very much around, and you and me, we're not getting any younger either, but we're still around, aren't we?
Well, I think the other guys are getting older. You and I seem to be maintaining pretty well.
I try to, God knows I try to maintain, if nothing else in the world. I gave a little speech here at the VFW not too many nights ago about a Veterans History Project. Congress passed a law asking that we start recording information firsthand from veterans of the wars, World War II and all the other conflicts since that time. Because unfortunately, although these two guys sitting here are going to live forever, some of those old guys out there were losing at the rate of 1,000 to 1,500 per day, and so these stories must be preserved. Calvin and I decided that long before that law was passed, and we've been doing interviews with people from the Second World War and the Korean conflict and Vietnam for a long, long time, and before that, of course, I did many on the radio. So that's why we're here today. You were kind enough to make a few calls and get a couple of the old soldiers here for us, huh? And even though some of these guys didn't fly as high as you did, they had their other capacities. We got Marines, we got...
Well, I'm sure they have some interesting stories to tell you, Gordy, and I appreciate your coming over. I'm sure this will be recorded for posterity.
Yeah, Len's going to thank me after for putting him on the spot because he thought he was going to sit at a table and watch the show. No, we got to get him on here. I thank you so much for inviting us and for all you've done for the veterans in this community.
Well, thank you very much, Gordy.
Thank you, my friend. All right, let me sit down here and talk with a couple of my buddies. Well, Calvin said to me one day, you know, we got this friend Gary Chartrand across the lake in Vermont. Gary's going to love this because here's a big sign that he sent along with his stuff. Gary collects old newspapers of all kinds. The guy has a whole series of newspapers that were printed on or about September 11th, 1814, and the War of 1812 and the Battle of Plattsburgh. He also has a whole bunch of copies of the first page of a newspaper called the Stars and Stripes. And we thought this would be a good starting point for our guests here today. Red Lacey, how are you, my friend?
Not bad.
Here's a guy who's, let's say, over 65.
88.
He's not afraid to tell anybody.
A pair of eights.
A pair of eights. Do you still swim every day?
Every day of the week. Just got through.
How many laps do you try to do?
I'm doing a mile a day.
Now, it's hard enough for most of us fat guys to walk a mile a day. Here's a guy that's trying to swim a mile a day. For how many years?
27.
Is it?
4,500 miles.
He's got it figured out.
I've been logged out. Had a log there, logged it out.
I think Kelly and I are just going to stand and watch you swim. I don't think we're up for a mile a day, Clarence, do you?
No, I'm not.
But guess what? You're feeling good, and you're looking good.
Oh, yeah. Swim every day. Walk my dogs every day. I got 2 nice dogs. Walk them around the field house at the college every day.
Now, in case our viewers did not notice it, this is not an Altona accent that this guy's got. This is from a little bit south of here. Tell us about your childhood, where you were brought up, Red.
Born and raised in Brooklyn.
Of course.
Borough Park.
Were you really?
Oh, yeah. 1913, yeah. And today is actually is a anniversary of mine.
Really? Tell me.
Well, I was here with the 26th. That's how I met my wife up here.
Oh, wonderful.
That's how I met my wife. And when I got out of here and I went down to New York, and she came down to my home in Brooklyn. And my mother and father was dead, and my sister would handle everything. And then when my wife came down there, and my wife tells me, she says, no sleeping. So she says, get married right away. And I went down to our church, the Catholic Church, St. Catherine of Alexandria, Fort Hamilton Parkway. I got to get married. The priest told me, I said, hey, Father, I got to get married. I'm in the Army, and I'm getting sent to Panama in 2 days. So I said, all right, I'll marry you tomorrow. It was Ash Wednesday. The church was full of people getting ashes. They stopped the ashes, went up to the altar, and got married. That's why today is
the ashes on Ash Wednesday. Unbelievable.
That's a tough day to get married in the Catholic Church. I had to tell the priest a lie, but
No, you never did.
no.
But you know, how many marriages do you think happened like that back then when guys had to go overseas? Got married real quick, and then came the hard part, huh?
Well, back then we had hardly an army. We had the standing army was 172,000 people. You're only getting $17 a month.
17. Let me see. You only buy about 3 packs of cigarettes with that, except that we don't smoke these days.
Over in the Philippines, I went over to the Philippines. Cigarettes are 4 cents a pack.
4 cents a pack?
Yeah, 40 cents a carton.
I thought I was good buying them in the old days at $1.97 a carton on the air base.
No, 40 bucks a carton. 4 cents a pack, everyone bought a pack.
Yeah, $4.
No.
$4.
I quit that stuff. I quit
40
smoking.
cents for a carton, that would be. At 4 cents a piece, 40 cents for a carton of cigarettes. And now cigarettes, I don't smoke anymore, but cigarettes
Anyway,
are about 5 or 6
5
bucks.
or 6, easy, yeah.
So where did you actually join the Army? Where?
In Brooklyn,
Brooklyn?
in New York City, Whitehall Street. 39 Whitehall Street, the big recruiting office.
And what year would that be?
That was in 1932.
I wasn't even a glimmer in anybody's eye until 1937. 1932.
32, went into the recruiting office and looked at the board. Big fat sergeant tells me, and where do you want to go? I says, well, I head up there, China, Philippines, Hawaii, Panama. I said, hey, how about China? He said, no, you can't go to China. You got to have one enlistment. And take the name. I said, oh, send me to the Philippines. I said, okay. I go over to your house and get this paper signed. My father was still living, but he was dying. And he signed the papers, and that's why I went up to Fort Slocum to get over to the Philippines. In them days, it took a month and a half.
Can you imagine that? A month and a half?
And they done a bad number on me. Because I lived in Brooklyn. I was shipped out on the 29th of November, and my father only lived about 2 miles away, 40 blocks or so. My sister and my brother-in-law came down to the ship, tried to get me off. Said the colonel says no dice.
Oh,
I
how'd
didn't
you
know.
go, huh?
I didn't know till my father died till I got over the Philippines. My first letter I got, and I kind of wanted. Back in them days, no, they didn't care if your father, who's ever dying, you're going. No, not today, but that's the way it was then. No, I went. First letter I got, a month and a half later. Died the same day I left, November the 9th, yeah. Things happen. That's how it was back then.
You think these guys don't have memories, huh? Wonderful memory. We've got to get back to you, but I want to say hi to Clarence Kelly over here.
Hi, Red. Not Red. I'm thinking of Red here. He's got me so excited here that
When you meet a guy like this, you get, first of all, you say Semper Fi, right?
Right, that's it.
You got that. United States Marine Corps.
Yeah. 3rd Division. I was in the 58th Replacement Battalion for 46 days on a Dutch ship. That wasn't too pleasant, I can tell you. They were holding, the campaign of Guam was going on, and they were holding us back. And they put us in, I think I went into a replacement battalion that they got the hell kicked out of them on Janita Cliff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there was only 30-some guys left in the battalion.
Oh, boy, that's a story all by itself.
I guess
Wow.
it was.
Well, where are you a North Country boy? Where
I
are you
was
from?
born and brought up in West Plattsburgh, one of 8 children. I had 3 brothers in the service, all at the same time. I had a brother that went in before the war, and I think he did 5 years in the Pacific, all on the destroyer. He was probably the hero of the family, because he had 3-4 presidential citations.
No kidding. What was his first name?
Donald Kelly.
Now, did he make it back? Did everybody make it back?
All of them made it back.
A lot of guys didn't, though, huh?
A lot of good friends.
Yeah. So you joined up right here in Plattsburgh?
Yeah. Walked out of high school in Morrisonville.
Oh,
In
the
the
old
third year
Morrisonville High School.
Tony Cousins was the big boy there. And it was quite a story behind this, too. Jimmy Jenkins and I was good buddies. And we were thinking about joining the Marine Corps. So we skipped school one day and we went and got the information. Came back, didn't say nothing. And Mr. Cousins called us up and he says, "You boys do this again, I'm going to expel both of you." So I think it run along 3 days and we went down and enlisted. Had to get our mothers to sign because we were both 17 years old.
If people today would just think of their 17-year-old sons and think about sending them off to war at age 17, most kids at 17, you know, are just not prepared for that kind of thing. It was a different age back then, Clarence, you know? Different time.
I wasn't prepared for it, I can tell you that. I wasn't.
Where'd you do your basic?
Then Paris Island. They got down and they stuck us in a platoon there, and there was so quite a few older guys. And most of them, we had a southern and a northern DI. And of course, they used to fight the Civil War.
They still do, some of them.
I can tell you one good one there, but I don't think if this is going to be on, you better not,
maybe we better not
put this in there.
But anyway, that was quite a time period.
Yes.
And after that, where'd they send you?
I went to Newport, Rhode Island for 3 months. And that's when the boys first started coming back from Guadalcanal. And they had some stories to tell, let me tell you that. And then I left there, and they formed this, it was either the 56th or 58th Replacement Battalion. And we went on a Dutch ship in San Diego, and they kept pulling us back. And my God, with 40 days on there, you know, no fresh water, 2 meals a day. We were glad to get off. I think no matter what they put us in, we were just glad to get off.
Quite an amazing experience, both of these guys. We're going to get back to you. Just think about some of your favorite or your most unfavorite stories. You brought a magazine with you. First of all, tell me, where did you go after boot camp? Because you were in the service for how many years all told?
26.
26 years?
No.
So after boot camp, where's the first place you got sent?
Philippines.
To the Philippines.
Yeah,
They
right.
didn't let you go to China.
Couldn't go. You got to have one enlistment in order to get to China. But you could go to the Philippines on your first enlistment.
So what was that duty like?
It was easy. There was nothing going on there. It was easy. You had your Filipinos done everything for you. Made your bed, shined your shoes, done everything but drill for you.
You couldn't get him to do that, huh?
No, we would. China was the same way. Well, that's how it was. The Philippines first.
Then what?
Oh, who knows? There's so many places I've been, I can't even remember them all now.
Well, you walked up
Oh,
to
that's
me.
it. When Philippines, then what? 26th Infantry, Plattsburgh, New York.
Oh, then you came up here.
That's from the Philippines. I came here from the Philippines. And that's how I met my wife up here, yeah. And wound up with 9 kids.
All right. It was the inspiration you got in the Philippines that caused that, I'm sure. So 26 Infantry. You were up here for how long?
A year and a half.
Then what?
Then I transferred down to the 18th Infantry down in Brooklyn.
Of course. Back home.
Back home, Fort Hamilton. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So about 7 years. And then we went to Fort Devens. We was on maneuvers down in North Carolina. We come back from North Carolina on December the 6th. It was at Devens. And went downtown that night. Partied hard. And about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm in this bar, and there comes, I was section leader then. I was in charge of 2 machine guns. Here comes a couple of my boys in the bar. Hey, Lace, you know we're at war? I said, what are you talking about?
December 7th.
I didn't know it till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's how it was at Devens.
Oh,
And we got organized with the 26th was part of the division. It was the 18th, 26th, and 16th. That's the first division. And that's how we all got together at Devens. And from then on, get ready to go overseas. Went over on a Queen Mary.
did you really?
Oh, yeah. Queen Mary. 5 days to get over. Zigzag, yeah. Landed in Glasgow, Scotland. and hung around Scotland for about 4 months, down to England for a couple of months, and then decided to make the invasion of North Africa. That's how we started out, from Glasgow, Scotland, to go to North Africa.
Now, you and A.B. de Grand Prix kind of tracked along with each other
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple of times, right?
Yeah,
We've interviewed Dr. A.B. de Grand Prix a couple of times on our show, and when I saw you the other night at the banquet, you said, hey, I was there.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Anzio.
That's right. I was in Naples when Dr. de Grand Prix had us worked in a hospital there in Naples. Then I went up TDY to Anzio for about a month. And he was up there in Anzio.
Now, did you know him at that time?
No,
or-
I never
So you didn't realize this till later?
No, a little later, yeah. I didn't know nothing about it. Till how we got together, me and Gray. He used to be down the YMCA in the morning. That's how. Sit in the sauna and we talk. And we got talking, and that's how we knew about it. Yeah.
That's how he makes it to 93 and you make it to 88, huh?
Hitting for 89 next. He's 93, is he?
He's going to be, if he isn't, he's going to be very soon now. He's an amazing guy, published a couple of books. He just published his diary from the 27
I've seen
months.
the program with you and him. Yeah.
He's just a nice man, a good guy.
Well, is he in good shape?
He's in pretty good shape for the shape he's in, like the rest of us. He's had physical problems down through the years. He's had a beautiful, large family, had 4 kids before the war and 4 kids after the war. And he's got a very loving family. Almost all of his kids, except one, live in this area, and they treat him well. He doesn't have to cook many meals, I guarantee you that.
Oh, I know his son real good, Art. I know Art
sure.
real good. Hung out with Art. I know Art, yeah.
So, good experiences and bad experiences, but that's all part of who we are, those memories, right?
That's right. That's all it is, yeah.
I wanted you to, before I get over and talk with Clarence again, I wanted you to tell me what book you brought here today.
About the VFW, give a small story about the invasion of North Africa on November the 8th. And that's just an 18 regimental combat team. That's who I was with. And I didn't know till later on who we fought against. But then I got to know, and that's I wonder who we fought. Now I got to know, and I was here we are.
Let me read a little bit of this just for our viewers. This is, when did this magazine come out anyway?
92.
In 92, so it's 50 years ago this month is the title of this segment.
Right.
And it says, farther south, the 18th Regimental Combat Team came ashore in the dark. Its 1st Battalion ran into a buzzsaw when it battled with the 1st Foreign Legion Battalion, 16th Tunisian Regiment, and the 68th African Artillery Regiment at St. Cloud. Overhead, British and French fighters engaged in dogfights. Fledgling paratroopers of the 2nd Battalion, 509th Parachute Infantry Regiment, also tossed into the fray. It would be the unit's baptism of fire, and there were concerns. The future of the paratroops is on the line, said Lieutenant Colonel Edson Raff to his officers of the 509th. If we do well, the airborne will be greatly expanded. If we fail, our paratroop units may be disbanded. Wow. Their mission? Secure vital airfields. At, what is this, Lasenia? How do you say that?
Yeah.
Lasenia. And...
Terrible in Algeria, yeah.
So you learned a lot by reading this article about what happened, huh?
I never knew. I just picked up which I get it every month. And when I was, oh boy, that's something. I lined it out. That's the 18th Infantry. Yeah.
And that was you. You know, it's
That's
very
me.
interesting because a lot of times, and you wonder, well, these guys were there. How come they didn't know what was going on? You knew what was going on where you were.
Oh yeah, I knew all around it. Yeah.
But until you got a copy of something like the Stars and Stripes, and you learned out what was going back home, and you learned what the newspaper article said about what you were doing over there.
That's
Sometimes it was a little bit different from the way you remembered
Of
it.
course, right. That's the way it was. Yeah.
It's so funny because I got on the internet last night in preparation for this program and just listed the Stars and Stripes, World War II. I wanted to get some Stars and Stripes, and I came up with one copy of the Stars and Stripes, and it's probably one of the most famous of all. The headline is Patton opens 4 attacks. I get here with Calvin today, and he and I do this quite often, so it's not purely coincidence. And look at the first one that Chartrand had on top. Exactly that one. Stars and Stripes. Did you ever get a copy of the Stars and Stripes when you were over there?
Oh, I've seen it all the time. That's what we waited for. About the cartoons were Willie and Joe.
Of course, very famous.
Oh, yeah. And what was his name from the 45th Division? He wrote all the articles. What was his name again?
You're asking me? I wasn't there. Do you remember, Clarence?
No, I know what he's talking about, though. He was a great writer in World War II.
He was a cartoonist.
Cartoonist.
He was in the 45th, yeah.
Yep.
He wrote some good stuff.
And I should know his name, and Calvin and I have both seen the cartoons.
Bill Malden was the cartoonist.
Bill Malden? Was it Bill Malden? Because Bill Malden was a cartoonist.
That's who it was.
at that
That's who
time.
that's who it
Good
is.
for Calvin.
Willie and Joe cartoonist.
Yeah.
Willie and Joe.
Bill
Boy.
Malden, he wrote Billy and Joe, and he wrote some good articles. One at Hitler's bridge, at his Alpine retreat up there, when at the end of the war, when all 3 or 4 generals up there looking down to the valley there. There's a beautiful view here. And one of the other generals said, "Yeah, we got one for the enlisted men too." That's Bill Malden. And he used to dig the officers all the time.
Oh, of course he did.
He
but
used to get them. He was called on the carpet a few times.
yeah, but that's all right. He's famous,
that was
and
the best one. Is there one for the enlisted men? Just a look.
I love it. So where did you go first when you went overseas?
I went to Guam.
And what was that like?
Well, the campaign wasn't over when I participated in the last part of the campaign,
That would have been what year?
1943. And then they accounted for 10,000 Japs, and I think it was 8 months later they had accounted for 10,000 more. So you can see how many was running around on the island just loose. You'd go on a 100-man outpost, and it was nothing to get 100, 150 Japs in one night. I left Guam. I went to Iwo Jima and came back to Guam. New Year's Day, 1946, I went aboard the Bunker Hill carrier to come home. The day before that, we were chasing Japs who had shot 4 Seabees in the showers on Guam. Now, I think it was a good many years after the war was over that a whole contingent of Japanese walked out on Guam that hid on the island, like something like 15 or 18 years later.
And many years, like 27 years later, the last one came out of the caves. I can't remember his name. He became quite famous both here and in Japan because nobody told him that he was relieved of his duty, and so he stayed there.
A Navy chief that got away from the Japs when they took the island by the name of Tweed. He hid out on Guam, and I think he gave them some kind of signals or something. He hid out on the Japs, and when they took the island back, he gave them a lot of valuable information because he had hidden out on Guam all this time.
Well, what was Guam like anyway? I'm sure many of our viewers have no idea.
A regular jungle island. Half of it was really jungle, because you could get lost in it, because I was lost for 3 days on it one time.
Really?
On a patrol, yes.
By yourself or
No,
with
a whole patrol. Got about 21 men. We were looking for Japs, chasing Japs, and we got lost. And it was, you say, well, how can you get lost on an island that's 37 miles long and 7 miles wide? But it can happen.
37 miles is a long walk,
Yeah,
man,
well,
in the jungle.
Yes, I mean,
If
it
you
is.
went the wrong way.
And Guam was a nice island at one end of it. There was a nice town there, Ganya, Catholic churches and the theaters and the whole works. But they smashed it, and they took it. Everything was flattened, and I mean flattened. There was no village left at all.
Well, what was that like when you got lost? Did you have radios?
Yeah, oh yeah. They kicked K rations to us from a Cub plane. I can remember
Piper
that.
Cub came over and flew
came
low.
over and threw boxes of K rations out to us.
For those people who may not be familiar what a Cub plane was, a Piper Cub
Yeah, that's
was
what
a
it was.
very tiny, generally
One
cloth-covered
man, yeah.
aircraft that one man flew in. You wouldn't guess it could get off the ground. I don't know how many horsepower they had, but
It was
probably
not.
smaller than a Volkswagen engine,
Yeah.
just enough to keep them aloft, but they could go anywhere. And there are still Piper Clubs.
Oh yeah,
the old
they
Piper Cubs
use them
flying
today. Today they use them in all modern. They did a lot of it in World War II, especially in the European theater. We didn't see much of it in the Pacific because there was no need for it. But they had them.
So they dropped some food in. That must have been nice.
Yes. We weren't really starving because there's a lot of coconuts on there, and
You know what? Strange you should mention that because I saw a survival expert with one of those programs on the Discovery or the Travel Channel, and he said, you can live on coconuts for a little while.
you
You
can.
can,
I
if
think
you can
it's
find
like
something to get them open with.
I'm trying to think of a word that describes it. When you first get there, you eat coconuts. You eat coconuts, but you can't see. That's all you see is coconuts.
Not very good for the digestive system, I wouldn't guess. Well, you
The
got it.
water was very bad, and the water that we did have, they'd put all these pills and stuff in it that tasted very bad. So what would we do? We would drink coconut juice. A green coconut is easy to get a quart of water out of it.
That's amazing. And you
also-
had knives and ways
Oh,
to
yeah,
get in the
there
coconut.
was nothing to get into a green coconut. It's very easy to get into.
So you had coconuts. You got lost.
You got lost.
And how did you find your way out
Oh
again?
yeah, we had the lieutenant that was with us, and they got out. And they come out after a while. After I think it was the third day, we come out.
Did you say to yourself, what did I get myself into?
Why do you say that anyway? What did I get myself into? But it was an experience.
I guess it was.
Once you live through it, and you say, "Well, I wouldn't want to go through it again," but you wouldn't relinquish what you do. It's I don't know. It's a funny thing. It's once you go through it, and you don't want to go through it again, but you wouldn't take back what you went through.
Oh, of course not, for a good
Especially
reason.
if you lived.
Yeah, especially if you live. That's a good point. You guys are here to tell the story. That makes it all worthwhile. So you spent most of your service career right there on Guam,
Most of it, yes, over 2 years.
but Iwo Jima. Now, Iwo
another
Jima,
story.
whether any of our viewers don't know about Guam, they do know about Iwo Jima, and that's
Yeah.
a story that I want you to tell right now. What was that like?
Well, that was like hell. That was like hell frozen over 4 times, I can tell you that. It was hot. I can remember that like yesterday. They issued it. They took all of our clothing and impregnated it with some kind of we didn't know what the hell they were doing it for. And still today, I don't know what they did it for. But Tokyo Rose came out, because that was a nightly program. We always listened to that. That was like the other one in Axis Alley there, or whatever her name was. And she says, "You boys, they issued you new field jackets," which they did. And she says, "It's going to be so damn hot where you're going that you ain't going to need even field jackets." She was right. I can tell you that. You could take your canteen and put it that far in the ground and cover it up, and you had good warm water for shaving.
Think about that for a moment, folks.
Think about it. It was all volcanic ash. That's all of Iwo Jima was. And they had caves there that was 7 stories down. They bombarded that 29 straight days, and I don't think they killed 4 Japs.
Wow.
But the Marine Corps, they got the hell kicked out of them there, I can tell you that. They lost a lot of people.
Well, you mentioned Tokyo Rose. There was a lot of propaganda on both sides, as there is in any war or conflict. But Tokyo Rose was a kind of a special thing. Explain what that was all about.
I think that they put her on there to knock you down, but I think they helped people more than they did anything else.
You mean they failed, huh?
They get a kick out of it. People would get a kick out of listening to her. She come out with Al, where's your wife tonight, or your girlfriend back there with some 4F guy, and this stuff like that. And guys would just laugh at it mostly.
She was a Japanese lady with no Japanese accent. She sounded like an American, right? Sounded just like an
It was
American.
your girlfriend.
And the idea was to put her on the radio and absolutely
propaganda. It was
to demoralize these guys who were out there. And
I don't think they worked. I don't think, as far as I was, it didn't work. Of course, I wasn't married, and I don't know how it affected somebody that was married. But it sure and hell didn't bother me any, because I got a kick out of it.
and she was on at a certain time every night.
Every
on the
night she would
radio.
come on, yeah.
And there were others. She wasn't the only one, but she may be the most famous that we can
Famous. She was
remember.
the most famous, yeah.
And don't you forget that we had our own propaganda broadcasting.
See, we didn't have no part of that. We didn't know nothing about it. But I imagine we did.
Oh, sure. And even more recently in Afghanistan, what were we doing? Flying low over the Taliban and Al Qaeda forces and dropping flyers and
Leaflets?
offering them $25 million to a guy that makes $30 a year. But still, we haven't found that guy. But so that was quite an experience. Were you there when they raised the flag?
I was there. Yeah, I was quite a way. I wasn't right near it. I was probably 1 mile and a half from there.
But how soon after that happened did you know that those guys had raised that flag?
I never knew while
Didn't
I
know
was
till
there.
you came back and
Till
saw
I
the
came
picture?
back, right? Till I seen the picture.
And now it's perhaps the most famous war photograph in the history of the world. It's got to be.
Yeah, and it wasn't a true thing either till afterwards. This was, you probably know what I'm talking about there. The original flag was taken down, and another flag was put in its place. The man that put the flag up there was, I think, a lieutenant, and he took the flag that was originally put up there. He said because it would be something like it would be a historical thing, and he wanted that put aside, and they put another flag up.
But you know, we're a nation everybody needs symbols. And that photograph was a great symbol.
Yeah.
Like the guys putting the flag up on the Pentagon and the flag from 911 down there, that flag that they've taken to so many places, and when they brought it into that stadium in in Utah for the opening opening ceremony of the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. Wow. I don't mind telling you that affected me. And when that New York City fireman stood up there and sang the national anthem, that's big time.
That shakes me anytime it's sang.
It does
It
me
just
too.
does.
People who are our age, it's in your bones. Half the time when I'm watching a hockey game on television, I want to stand up when they do the anthem.
Well, 11 years ago, I had open heart surgery. And one of the things connected with that, and I thought it kind of funny at the time, was the doctor was said you will find it that you will cry awful easy. And it's true. It is true.
I never had open heart surgery, and
Well, I can
Calvin
tell
and
ya.
I have shed lots of tears on this program because we've had some pretty tender moments. And it's important. I think it's really important for guys like you to come and tell these stories. Some people don't like to tell the story because it's hard to remember those bad times. But it's important for the young people of today and tomorrow to know what you guys sacrificed for them to have the kind of freedom that we have in our world today.
Well, I just finished reading Brokaw's book. And I read 10 pages and I cry, put the book down,
Well,
read again, cry again.
because that book is the real thing.
Yeah,
His
it's,
other book is the real thing, too. That's pretty powerful stuff, but it brings it right into your heart, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, we're going to get back to you, Clarence. That's the thing that I've always found interesting about going back and interviewing people who've been there 50, 60, 70 years ago. The emotion of it is still right there, isn't it? I mean, you think about your buddies that you lost and things that happened, and wow, that's heavy stuff.
Once in a while, I think of it, yeah.
You can't push it all away. You
No,
can't
no,
push it all
no,
away.
no. It's hard. No, I can't do it. Yeah.
Tell us some of your stories, places you visited, interesting things you saw.
Don't get me in trouble now.
No, we can keep it clean here. We can keep it clean. But have you kept track of any of your buddies from that time period? Are you still friends with some of them?
No, Gordy,
You outlived them all?
they're all dead. No, can't think of any. Right. Well, with me, but Walt Hubel, right from Plattsburgh.
Oh,
here.
sure.
Walt we were in combat together. I mean, the same area. At the Kesserine Pass, Walt, he got shot up there. He was in the 26th. He got shot up. Well, First Division was 3 regiments, 16, 18, 26. That's how I was the 18 on the side of a hill at the Kesserine Pass. They almost wiped out the whole 26. And Walt was there. He got shot up. A whole bunch of people got shot up. We didn't get shot up. I was on the side of a hill looking down on it. And that's all I know about the Kesserine Pass. They've dropped a few bombs on us, but that's about all that happened there. That's all. But Walt Hubel, he's one of the very, very few that I know of, that I knew up here in the 26th. I knew Walt real well. In fact, his wife and my wife hung out together.
Huh.
Did you ever meet Walt?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And his boys, of course.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's who is. He still comes here every once in a while. I see him here. He has lunch here,
Talk
so do
about
I.
old soldiers, boy, I'll tell you.
No, we don't talk about that. One who I hung out with a lot was Charlie O'Toole. Did you remember him?
I remember the name.
Charlie O'Toole. He was a legend in Plattsburgh. He's gone.
the name,
They're
yeah.
all gone. No, I've had some experiences. Even after I got out, I've done some weird. I worked on a base for 10 years. I was on the base. I've done a lot of what you call Space A, flying. I've done a lot of Space A out of the base here. Went around the world with them.
Did you really?
Oh, I was going to Philippines. My daughter was in Hawaii. I went over to Hawaii about 10 times.
Oh, that's
On
wonderful.
a KC, I was a commuter, back and forth to Hawaii. KC 135
On the tankers.
on the
I went on a
tankers.
couple of junkets on those planes. I'll never forget the first trip. Where do we go? Barksdale, I think.
Barksdale, yeah, down to the bomb camp, yeah.
Yep.
We went down to the, made that.
Well, as I told the group here the other night, I was never in the service for one reason or another. So I spent a lot of time paying back to the base, saying nice things about the people on the base who worked so hard for this community. And in the Gulf War, I spent almost 3 days and 3 nights there greeting all the guys and gals as they came back and doing interviews. So I've had wonderful associations with people in the service with that air base when it was here.
Oh, yeah, so did I. No. It's gone.
Oh, yeah. But, you know, a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, until they turn the television sets on, whatever time they're watching this, had never even heard of the 26th and didn't know that this has been a military installation for a long time before the Air Force got here.
Oh, 100 years. Yeah, no, it's military all for years and years and years, yeah.
So, you know, they say join the Navy, see the world, but join the Army, see the world too, huh?
And the Air Force, and really see it with the Air Force, yeah. No, I've seen it. With the Air Force from the base, I've seen it. I used to go to Turkey a lot. Turkey, England, France, Germany, name it.
It was a little better going that way than it did the first time you got on that Queen Mary, right?
That's right. No,
Queen Mary, one of the most famous ships of all time, and I got a chance to see the Queen Mary as a small child, and you know, I grew up around the New York City area, but I wasn't born until 1937. So for a little kid back home in Thornwood, New York, in Westchester County, boy, these guys,
you didn't live in the city.
I didn't live right in the city. I was born in Pearl River in Orange County.
Pearl River.
And lived in Rockland County, and then lived over in Westchester County and had relatives all around the New Jersey, New York City area.
Okay.
And my dad was a chaplain, so during the war where you were over there fighting, my dad was putting the black armband on and going around telling everybody to shut the lights off and pull the shades down, and
Okay.
you know, so I got a completely different perspective. But boy, believe me, when we saw somebody in a uniform walking down the street, that was like, to a kid today, like some superhero might be,
Right.
you know. Hopefully there'll never be another conflict quite like World War II.
No, there never will be. No, it's impossible, no. No, it's Different today, different ball game all the way, yeah.
Well, wars are fought different. And what you guys did
Oh, yeah.
probably will never happen again. We hope not. At least not that way.
Right.
How many cities and countries do you think you've been to in your lifetime?
I couldn't count them up. A lot of them.
You don't do that much traveling now, do
No,
you, Red?
not let 'em. They closed the base on me. They cut out the. I could still do it. I got to go all the way down to McGuire to get an aeroplane. There's still space, eh? I'm going to do it in April. I'm going to Antigua in the West Indies. I'm going to fly out of Florida
That's not a bad detail.
with a nice new cargo jet, C-17. That's on the schedule for April. I'm going down to Antigua. We got an air base there.
I love it. 88 years old, still planning into the future, where he's going to go and what he's going to do. That's wonderful. Well, whatever got you started in this exercise program of yours 20-some years ago?
I can't remember what. Just came back from Florida with my wife and kids, and I stopped in South Carolina with my daughters, and they had a swimming pool there, and we all got in the pool. I said, I haven't swum in a long. Then we came back to Plattsburgh, and then I checked the Y out one day, and said, no, I'm joining this, yeah. And that was 27 years ago. The tab was $75 then. It's 400 and something now.
You're probably the guy responsible for making it so popular and the price going up. This guy's had his picture in the paper and he's been on television and well, you can't swim. That's a long ways. How many miles now did you say?
4,500.
Think about that. Some people haven't driven in a car 4,500 miles. It's amazing. Just keep swimming lap after lap after lap.
Every day. And then walk the dogs. That's the routine every day. And April's coming up. I'm going to break the routine. Down to Florida for a month. Swim down there. I swim on a base down in Florida. Patrick Air Force Base. Cocoa Beach, Florida. Got a beautiful pool. I swim there. My son only lives 5 minutes from there.
Oh, that's good.
That's why I'm down there, yeah. That's on the schedule in April.
You can show up all the old timers down at Patrick Air Force Base. Say, bring on those 85-year-old guys. I'll clean their clocks here in the pool. That's pretty neat. We're very proud of you for doing that. Clarence, it was a little different coming. What was it like coming back from the war for you, coming back home? How did you count the minutes and days?
Yes. I was put on guard duty. There were, the continuance of us, and we were very angry at that, but we got to go to all the head of the chow lines, which was very good. We got our khakis starched and everything. But when we landed in Frisco, but they wouldn't let us off there. We were going down to San Diego the next morning, and anybody that had a uniform that night could go on liberty.
Ooh.
Well, I think guys were paying $200 and $300
Of course.
to the guys that were stationed on the Bunker Hill, which was all Navy. Of course, we didn't have no uniforms, fatigues, that's all we had. And there was a few went, I think about probably 25 or 30. But most of them that went were detailed, but you ain't going to believe this, to go bring back milk and hamburgers.
It would work for me, I guarantee you that. Milk and hamburgers.
That's what they wanted, yeah. These guys went, and they come back with as much as they could carry of milk and hamburgers. Then the next day we were down to San Diego, and that's where I didn't think it was discharged there. We got discharged at Bainbridge, Maryland. But my God, we were treated good. Anything you wanted to eat or drink was there on the table. It was a good coming home.
Now, did you fly back?
No, I come back on the Bunker Hill.
Oh, on the Bunker Hill.
On the Bunker Hill carrier, yeah.
And dropped you off there in Maryland.
No, they dropped us off in San Diego, and then we came cross country on train.
Oh.
And we lost quite a few. I got to tell you that we lost quite a few on the way across.
Tell me what that was like. That had to be.
Well, it was guys were celebrating. Guys were celebrating. I can remember this one guy. He bought a suitcase. I think the guy charged him $34 or $40 for like a $10 suitcase. And he says the suitcase that's too good to put clothes in, and exactly 52 points of Schindler's Black Label
Oh, God.
fit in that suitcase. And I can remember, like on the third day, that they even had the conductor on the train. He didn't know where he was either. And that's how we lost guys. They'd get off. Of course, they made stops for water and coal, and we'd lose one or two. Some of them would catch us, some wouldn't.
Hopefully they got home somehow.
Well, they eventually made it to Bainbridge. But it was quite an experience. I can tell you that. It was a long trip coming home.
I bet you it was good to see West Plattsburgh again.
It was, yeah. It
How
was
long were
very
you
good.
gone all told?
3 years, exactly to the day.
Oh, isn't that
Yeah.
unbelievable? Well, we're glad that we all survived and we got you here today, and we're going to add more chapters to our little corner right after this. Well, this guy was walking by out front and he heard Red Lacey talking about those war stories. He said, wait a minute, I'm going to go in there and tell him a few of my war stories too. So here he is, Bill Vogt. How the heck are you?
Pretty good, Gordy.
I'm glad to hear from you. We got to have guys. We got to have guys from the Navy here. We got to have everybody represented. We got the Army. We got the Marine Corps. We got the United States Air Force way over to the side over there. Now we got the U.S. Navy.
Well, we have the armed services at the table.
We got them here. We got the Joint Chiefs of Staff sitting right here. We could sign all kinds of. Bill, where are you from originally?
Plattsburgh?
Right here in the city.
Yes, sir. My father was over here in 26th Infantry. In fact,
I wonder if
he's
He was with me. His old man was first sergeant. I knew his father real well.
my father was his first shirt.
That's right.
Straightened him up. See, that's
No, it
why-
wasn't
that's why
my
he
first
is a
shirt. No,
man.
he was in G Company, but he was down at the. I know the old. I know Bill Vogt. I know the first.
yeah.
Everybody knew him. Yeah.
Now listen, wasn't
Everybody here connected to the 26. My uncle, Dick Dowd, was in the 26.
really?
Yeah.
Well, didn't we just aired an interview we did a couple of years ago with Sal Riggy. Wasn't his dad in the 26? Didn't he show us
Riggy,
pictures of the 26?
Riggy was.
Who?
Riggy.
Way
Riggy.
back when.
He was, what the hell was he? Was he headquarters? Riggy?
Can't place him.
No.
I don't know. So anyway, you grew up right here, right in the city? What
Right in the city of Plattsburgh, right?
street did you live on as a kid?
19 South Peru Street.
House is still there.
Fox Hill.
Little Fox Hill stuff, huh? I did a series of columns on why they called it Fox Hill.
You never did get an answer either.
No,
did you?
not really, but I just make stuff up. See, nobody expects me to tell the truth anymore. But anyway, yeah, a lot of good people from Fox Hill. So you joined up.
Yep. 17 years old.
You remember the exact date?
Oh, no, not really.
What year was it?
45. In 45, let's see, about May of 45. So I got in just at the very end of it. I was on a, well, I'll tell you the story. My dad.
Wait, that's what we're here for. We want the story.
Well, my dad was 30 years in the Army. He retired in 1940. And, well, World War II, you wanted to get in the service and beat the hell out of the Nazis and the Japs and all these people. So Dad said, well, I would suggest you go in the Navy. I said, Dad, you were infantry for 30 years. He said, well, when you go in the Navy, you got your bunk and you got your hot food right with you. He said, you're going in the infantry, laying in the mud, cold food.
Oh, yeah.
So, and besides, the Army wouldn't take me at 17, so I was 17, so Navy took me. So.
Now, all three of you guys were 17. You were 17 too when you joined, right?
I was 17, yeah.
You were 17. So you had to have your parents sign for you. Your father signed for you to go in the Navy?
Yes, sir. He's the one that told me to go in. Yep.
Isn't that amazing? Now, most of the guys who signed up back in those days signed up with a bunch of buddies.
No,
Their friends went in. No, you.
I was by myself, more or less, yeah.
No kidding.
Well, I met some guys, boy, I can't remember their names, that was a long time ago. A guy from Katyville, and boy, I'm losing it. Not like this guy can remember everything.
He's not waterlogged after 4,500 miles. He should have been in the Navy. So where'd you do your basic? Where'd you go first?
In Sampson.
Sampson.
And I picked my ship up in Philadelphia Navy Yard, the USS Passumpsic. It was a oiler, tanker, AO 107. Oh, what a ship. It was a working ship. It wasn't like the big battle wagon, you had to wear your whites and all that stuff. We were dungaree Navy. Support ships is what we were. Yeah, we had to hit the carriers and refuel them and stuff like that. So, just the workers.
So that's what you did for your whole time in?
Yep, 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, you covered some miles.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a run from, right after the war. Actually, I was only in about, 6-8 months before the war ended. But then we used to run from Japan to Ras Sonora. I don't know what the name of it is now, but that's what it was up in Arabia. Load up with oil and come back down and spread her out from there. So.
See, everybody played a role. We've mentioned a lot of different roles here from different parts of the service. In my little speech that I gave the other night, I talked about all the support people. There were a lot of gals in the service in the Second World War who did a lot of amazing things. Mm-hmm. And then there's that image we have of Rosie the Riveter. Remember that, Rosie the Riveter?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, it was a song.
Yeah, it was a song. Now that you mention it,
Yes.
I've heard that song.
What, sure.
But a lot of people, there were so many. During wartime, it requires an awful lot of effort to support that. And back home, even as little kids, we were collecting tin, newspapers, and milkweed, and I don't know what all going down the ditches and picking up tin cans and whatever it took for scrap metal and the whole bit, we were doing back home.
And in school, you used to buy the stamps there, and you got enough Liberty stamps, and you could buy a bond. And
I still got a book of those somewhere at home. I wonder if they're worth anything.
Probably about $8,000 by now.
I got the little ration book.
Yeah.
They call it ration or ration books with the stamps and the little coupons. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, we still got a few of those in a sock drawer somewhere at home.
Well, I can tell you a little story about Plattsburgh during World War II. My dad, retired Army. Well, he ended up to be an air raid warden up on Fox Hill, right? So his duties were to go through and make sure you had all your curtains blacked out.
Yeah, my dad did the same.
So the Germans wouldn't bomb Plattsburgh. There was nothing in Plattsburgh at that time because the 26th went down to Georgia, right?
Yeah, Fort Benning.
They went down to Fort. There was nothing up there, but the Germans were going to bomb Plattsburgh. Okay.
Well, they didn't know what they were going to bomb. I lived down near New York City, and the submarines weren't very far away.
Oh no, well, this is true. But
so they had reason to worry down there.
That's right. So anyway, in Plattsburgh, I remember my mother, and I used to go up with her once in a while. We were airplane spotters. They gave us these silhouettes of the German planes.
I did that routine.
The old Post 20, American Legion down on Cumberland Avenue. There used to be a third floor and an observation tower up there. Oh, we'd go up there and spend a couple hours watching it. There was only one plane went over. It must have been a mail plane or something come from Montreal, but you had to report that.
That mail plane got written down a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's about the only action we had up there.
But I remember the silhouettes of the planes.
Yeah.
You knew what it was, and you stood up there for an hour, and you thought you were doing something really, really important.
We were doing it. And I got my last whipping from my mother when I was about 14. Well, like I say, my dad was an air raid warden, right? And the Germans were going to bomb us. So my buddy, what's his name? Bob Bond. Old Bobby and I were real tight, good friends. You know the cemetery up on U.S. Avenue? The old cemetery up there? We used to burn it every year.
Oh, yeah, St. John's.
Yeah, the old cemetery up there. Oh, we used to burn it every year. Well, during the war, you couldn't have any fires, because the Germans would spot that and they didn't know where we were at. Oh, Bobby and I, we went over. And lit the cemetery off. Boy, all the fire trucks up there and people all around. We were doing fine, watching all the excitement. Don't Bobby, we were all standing over in front of Bulkera store. It was on Elizabeth Street. Do you remember Bulkera store?
Yeah.
Well, we were sitting over there, all standing around. Oh, what a fire. That's dumb Bobby, my buddy, goes to my mother. Said, boy, Dean, my mother, they called her Dean. Dean, Billy and I did a good job burning the cemetery, didn't we? Well,
Big mistake.
Billy, go home. Oh, boy, I knew I was in. No, she called me William. I knew I was in the soup. William, go home. Because I was always Billy. I was William that night. Okay. I went home, said, sit down. Don't you know the Germans are looking for these fires and stuff to know where we're at? I said, yeah, Mom. I was 13 years old, 6 feet tall. You know. Sit down. Yes, Mom. She give me a That's the last time she really whipped me hard.
But you turned out okay.
Well, yeah.
But you know, we actually gathered here today with hopes of talking a little bit about the Stars and Stripes. But before we did that, I wanted to make sure that we got background from everybody. Where you went in, what you did, some of the stories. Do you remember the Stars and Stripes when you were in the service?
We never had them.
You never had them.
No, not aboard ship.
Isn't that a man? They never got aboard ship. Well, let me tell you now, I learned on the internet last night that the Stars and Stripes, as of 1999, is on the internet. So you can get your digital copy of Stars and Stripes by touching it off on your computer. Whereas in those days, you had to wait till a copy got to you, right, Led?
Yeah. You had to buy it.
Oh, you had to buy it?
Oh, yeah. That's
I
the
didn't-
price up there.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know that.
1 franc.
That
And that was about a nickel.
Isn't that amazing?
No, GIs. GIs had to buy it.
I didn't know
I
that.
was in Japan in the Army of Occupation for a year and a half. In 47, 48, I was in Osaka,
Oh,
Japan.
you didn't tell me that.
Oh, yeah, well, I was in the
Come on, we want the good stuff
And
here.
then we had the Stars and Stripes there. It was a nickel. No, you paid for GIs. No, it was delivered. It was delivered. It was printed up in Tokyo, then sent down 141 and drop it off in Osaka, all over. No, we waited for the Stars and Stripes every morning. Waited for it to come in. No, it was a nickel. And this is a European edition. 1 franc.
Patton
Yeah,
opened
that's
4
equivalent to
attacks.
about a
Pride
nickel.
of Jap Navy humbled by bombs.
Yeah, but it's
U.S.
all-
Navy dive bombers missiles explode near the forward turret of the Japanese battleship Yamato. Rout of the Tokyo fleet, October 25th in the Philippines. You weren't even in the service yet.
No.
So you couldn't have been there.
No.
German mines booby-trapped. 8th Air Force Armada blast path for 3rd Army attack at Metz.
Hey, the Air Force did something.
Oh, listen to this. Oh. We're going to get Clyde A. Lewis up here and fix you guys real bad. Well, here,
But at that time, it was the Army Air
See?
Corps.
here's another one. Patton, 2.5 miles from Reich. Yeah, we were looking at that date. That's what I said. Friday, November 10th, 1944. And this is the next day, Saturday, November 11th. Come on over here, my friend. Take a look at it. And these things are bound to bring memories back because a lot of our young viewers don't know what a V2 is now, but we know what V2s were, boy. And they knew in London, too, didn't they, huh?
I guess they did. They raised hell with London.
Germans reported yesterday that Antwerp, vital Belgian port captured virtually intact by the Allies, been under fire for weeks from their V1 and V2 secret weapons.
That was just on the History Channel.
Yeah.
Just the other day. Yep.
You know, that's another great thing, that we can see all that history recreated on television now. You mentioned reading Brokaw's book. Tom Brokaw, the anchors, I'm sure all of our viewers know for the NBC television, the nightly news, evening news, really thinks it's important to preserve these memories of World War II. And he's right.
He's got it. That book is something, boy, I'll tell you.
He
It's
has.
the best I've ever read.
What was the
Best.
name of it?
Huh?
What was the name of that book?
Well, the last one is, I I don't know. Somebody gave it to me for a Christmas present.
I don't actually know the titles myself, I'll tell you the truth.
Rocco's book?
Yeah, the last one.
Last Generation, wasn't
The
it?
last generation.
Last Generation.
That's it.
I
Well-
got that, and I got Dr. Grampy's first one. What was his? Reflections was his first
Yes.
book?
Yeah, and then he
Yeah.
did his diary the second time
I
around.
gotta look around and
The
get that. I'm
last
gonna
book,
pick
I
that
think,
up.
You said women in World War II. In every walk of life, even to the military, there's a lot of captions in there, in that book, a lot of them. The one women.
It should be.
Nurses and the whole works.
Well, nurses,
The
for
Rosie, the
example.
River, and all that stuff is in that book.
Yeah.
The letters.
Well, you are-
You know, they wrote to Brokaw, and my mother did this, and she did that, and it's in that book.
You ask A.B. de Grand Prix sometime about nurses in World War II. Support his MASH units wherever they were. Tremendous sacrifices.
Right after I read your article, I always read his, so.
Oh, don't tell him that. Tell him you'll read him for his first. Okay. As long as you read both of them.
Maybe say that.
We never seen this paper in the Pacific.
You didn't either?
Never seen this paper in the Pacific.
Isn't that amazing?
Probably was there. but-
You knew it was. You knew there was a star.
Oh
and
yeah,
some
we
stripe.
know it. Yes, but I never seen the paper.
Well, it survived for a long time. I tried to get on the internet and do some extensive research. I wanted to find the first copy that was ever printed. I couldn't find it last night. I got too busy listening to, on the internet now, you can listen to firsthand accounts. Like you guys sitting here, they've got them on the internet. You get on that computer and you press that mouse on a guy's face from the 101st Airborne or something, and he'll tell a story right there. They've recorded it right on digitally on television, and it's really wonderful to be able to do that. So I got hung up on all of that, and I didn't get too much of the history.
That's still going on. They're still selling the Stars and Stripes
sure.
in Europe and the Pacific. They're both going.
Well-
They're still going on today.
Lanny LaValle was here at the banquet with us the other night, and he's the one that filled me in what it was like in Vietnam. Stars and Stripes made it over there.
Of course,
He
still,
said that's the only way we knew of what was going on back home.
right. That's still going on. That's Stars and Stripes still going on. They sell it. I think it's printed in London, and they fly them around to different places, Bosnia, places like that. But Stars and Stripes still going on.
Well, Navy Marines, they didn't want us to know what was going on, probably.
Maybe not.
You think so? Here's an interesting headline, and this paper is November 11th, 1944. Bombers slash at jet aircraft bases in Reich, smashing again at the enemy's battered supply lines opposite the 1st and 3rd Army fronts. More than 750 Air Force flying fortresses and Liberators. How about those for planes we all know and remember? Escorted by 600 plus Mustangs. Remember the Mustang? And Thunderbolts. Yesterday bombed transport facilities, industrial plants, and jet plane airfields in the Frankfurt and Cologne sectors. That was a relatively novel thing, jet planes back in 1944, that's for sure. So these are very interesting stories. Here's another one from a little bit later, November 17th, not quite a week later. 1st and 9th open attack. Mystery force lunges into Reich. Patton's men entered the Met's outskirts. Here's another one. Yanks invade New Jap Island. General MacArthur's headquarters, small force landed Wednesday. I've never heard of this island. I don't even know how to pronounce it. L-E-Y-T-E.
Leyte.
Leyte.
Is it? Leyte?
Yeah,
Leyte. It's in the
L-E-Y-T-E.
Philippines.
That was very important. Leyte. You heard a lot. We heard a lot about Leyte. Let me tell
Were
you.
you on that island, Red? No?
No, I was in the Pacific. I was over in Italy at that time.
Oh, you were?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's in World War II. When Leyte was Philippines.
Yeah, Philippines, yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, here's something that brings in the stark contrast the stories of what has been happening in Afghanistan and what's happening back during the Second World War. In Afghanistan, when a helicopter makes what they call a hard landing, and a couple of guys get a bruise on their side and some guy needs a Band-Aid on his knee, not diminishing what these guys are doing, because they're still a great risk, that becomes our news. You didn't know most of the time when somebody got wounded. But listen to this. U.S. ground force casualties in Western Europe totaled 200,349 up to November 1st, an increase of 25,500 over the total announced up to October 3rd. And then there's some casualties, 35,884, 145,788 wounded, 18,677 missing. That's the kind of war that was fought back in those days.
Them rows of crosses didn't get there for nothing.
Well,
They're all there.
you know, and that was,
Acres and acres and acres of them.
and they thought World War I was the war to end all wars, didn't they, huh?
It's supposed to have been, I guess.
They didn't know.
Well,
That was a
They've,
national, according
They
to my father.
I don't think anything will ever match World War II.
no, the headlines
Everything is
alone.
different today. It's
What's your drink?
The headlines alone tell part of the story. 5,000 warplanes carve way for massive drive on Reich. Huh?
that's it right there.
Reds
It's,
crack new hole in Budapest defenses.
It was big stuff.
Mud-caked Yanks say Metz is Normandy without the hedges. Some of these very clever writers of headlines back in those days. So now we're up, here we are, we're back up to December 23rd, 1944, same year. All these, 44, 45, we're keeping going. Foe 38 miles from France. Eisenhower, boy, didn't he endear himself to the American public, huh?
A real politician.
Wasn't very hard for him to get elected president, was it, huh?
Well, he had a beautiful home on Guam.
Did he really?
Oh, $150,000 home.
150,000 then? I wonder.
I'm serious. I've seen it. I'd seen it a good many times.
Have you really?
Yes. I wasn't inside of it, but it was there, and it was a beauty.
Oh boy. 2-inch high banners tell the home front of the great battle. Banner lines more than 2 inches high, newspaper accounts of the German counteroffensive for the past 3 days have startled U.S. readers, hitting them right between the eyes with such strongly worded headlines as Nazis gained more in 3-day drive than Allies had won in 3 months. Just the kind of headlines we wanted to see back home in December of 1944, huh? And they printed an awful lot of maps. And remember, in those days, when you guys were over there, we were back here going to the movie theaters and watching newsreels. And some of those newsreels survived. Calvin's seen them. I've seen them on television. Some of those History Channel stuff showing the old newsreels. Boy, boy, oh boy. Now here we are. We're on just 1 day later. These are... Did you put these all in order just for us, Calvin? What a good guy you are. See this? December 24th. Third Army hits flank. Nazis say air fleets hammer attackers.
Christmas Eve,
On Christmas Eve,
December 24th.
the war was still on, huh? It
Really was on.
doesn't say much on this front page about Christmas Eve either, does it? Because there were serious things to do, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the Battle of the Bulge, wasn't it, in 44?
Oh, yeah.
That was just starting.
Just
Christmas
starting.
Eve.
That was about Little Bulge,
Yeah,
yeah.
you just started
Well,
in 44. Yeah.
Where was I at Battle of the Bulge? There was a bar on 42nd Street in Times Square. Diamond Jim Brady's was the
Oh
name of
my,
it.
yes.
You ever heard of that?
Of course.
Well, that's where I was December 24th, 1944. They sent me back from Italy, recuperation leave, 1st of December. I came to Plattsburgh, and I went down to New York. I was going down to New Jersey. Took the train down and wound up over in Diamond Jim Brady's on Times Square, 42nd. You ever was in there?
I have not been there, but I know it very well.
Right, and I was in there, and right across the street was a Times building with the news flash going around it. And I was in Diamond Jim Brady's, drinking, looking at it. That's when the boat started.
Isn't
And I
that
toasted
amazing?
them. Better you than me.
The big camel sign putting out the puff of smoke.
Oh, I remember it well. As a small child back in those days in the 40s, I remember that perfect ring, right?
Yeah.
You've seen it too, huh?
Oh, yeah. I worked on a railroad out of 72nd Street for 5 years.
Pull me back,
Yeah.
pull me back to Italy.
No
Right
wonder,
after the war.
no wonder we started smoking as kids with all those big signs. Oh, let's look here. Now, where are we? Now we're Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, yeah.
Doesn't say Merry Christmas. Says Yanks stop Nazi attack, unleash biggest air blow.
That's right. Well, but
The
sort of
biggest
was.
air
It don't say nothing about Christmas stuff.
Says bold, stabilized, columns halted. Oh, we found it. Christmas? Question mark. Asks foxholer. Somebody in the foxhole must have missed a day. See? Take a look at this. Mentioned Christmas to a guy in the foxhole had a slightly different meaning, didn't it? Huh? Depending on where's the craziest place you ever spent Christmas while you were in the service?
Christmas Eve in Tunisia, North Africa. We had the honor to meet the Germans. We attacked them on a hill in Medjez El Bab. Christmas Eve, we attacked at the hill. The British laid down a whole bunch of artillery for us first. Got halfway up the hill, Germans drove us right back down. That was Christmas Eve. The next day, I was in a foxhole, and what I had to eat all day was one of them little hard balls, hard candy suck. That was my Christmas dinner.
For the whole
I guess
day?
that was what, 43 in North Africa.
You didn't even have any rations left?
There was nobody around, nothing but Germans. No, I didn't have nothing.
They weren't going to throw you a can, huh?
No, that's where I was. Christmas Eve, we attacked a hill.
Oh, boy.
Christmas Day in the hole all day. Next day, we got out of there. Retreated 20 miles. That was in a movie, Ernie, remember the picture Ernie Pyle?
Oh, sure.
Well, that was G.I. Joe. That was in the movie. That's when we were green. We just fought them. We were the first ones to meet the Germans. They knew everything about war. No, they chased us. 20 miles. See you later. Adios.
Adios.
Couldn't get you, right?
Let's talk a little bit about what it's like for 17 and 18-year-old kids to be in a place where they were afraid somebody was going to kill them that day. Is that I can't even imagine what that feeling must be like.
Well, you don't, when you're 17, 18, nothing can hurt you.
No, you're in a state of shock. You don't care.
No, nothing can hurt you when you're that young.
You don't believe it, huh?
Did you believe it?
No, I don't know.
You go in, nothing can hurt
No,
me.
because I can remember the first night in boot camp. You didn't go to bed until you learned how to make your bed. And there was quite a few there that night that didn't go to bed. And the ones that didn't bother were the 17-year-olds. I was in a platoon with, I think, the first draftees that the Marine Corps accepted. There was guys like 27, 28, 30 years old. Those guys were crying, and we were laughing.
Isn't that amazing?
We were laughing.
Sure.
And these bastards would stand back and throw a silver dollar or half a dollar, like from here to that post. And if it didn't bounce from your bed to the next bed, you made it up again.
I've heard that before.
You made that
I thought
bed
that
up
was
again.
just a story. That
no,
was for
that is
real.
not a story. That is the God's honest truth.
Isn't that amazing? All right, so let's move on here. The foxholer, he wasn't too happy about Christmas.
That's Christmas.
Yeah, snow-covered hillside, peering down the slope to where the Germans were. 88 slamming into the hillside, crouched
right.
a little frozen, closer to the frozen earth. That's the way it was like, huh?
Water's coming down on you.
The cold ate through their clothing and made their
I
lips
don't ever
gray.
remember any Christmas while I was in the service.
Really?
I had 3 Christmases. I never remember any of them. Nothing comes back to me whatsoever.
Certainly didn't have a
About
pile of
Christmas.
presents under anybody's tree, did you?
There was
huh?
no presents.
Yeah. Well, there were things to do. So now we're into 1945, that fateful year, Saturday, January 13th. Allies pursue foe in the bulge. Yanks press inland against the Jap hill defenses. sea battle raging off Indochina. First KO's 3 Panzer divisions. We're starting to get some good news in the war here, huh?
Oh, it's got to be good. Now it's going the other way. This is when it started going the other way right here. 1945.
Now the war casualties are up to 646,380, just to let you know. Look at this horrible story right here. Medic amputates legs of 3 women trapped in debris. And this is in the Ardennes forest. American infantry, and you know, for those who are weak in their stomach, they better not watch this for a minute, because it says, using GI scissors for a scalpel and sometimes lying on the floor while he worked, a 20-year-old sergeant amputated the legs of 3 Belgian women trapped in a destroyed air raid shelter during an attack. Isn't that amazing? But this is the reality. This kind of stuff went on all the time. These medics, I don't know if you guys ever, did you know any medics while you were in the service, personally?
Oh, yeah, no, I forgot them all.
But I mean, we've tried to interview a number of medics, and for these medics, some of them cannot tell the story. I mean,
well, the medics in the Marine Corps, see, were Navy. A lot of people didn't really know that, but all of our medics came out of were Navy. And some of, well, I can remember, I can remember one guy, and he would stumble over a shoestring, but he was always, if a guy got killed and lost his rifle, he'd be toting a rifle. And he was always dragging this paraphernalia with him, plus tended to guys that were hurt. And I remember him very well. He was a little short guy, probably 5'6", and he had tremendous. He was like a donkey, you know, that you would load up, and he would have all this stuff on him.
Stay right with it.
I had the medics tell me, you know, they didn't know much about medicine at all before they went in the service.
No.
They gave them a few weeks of training, and they went and did the best they can.
Basic first
And
aid.
one of the medics that we interviewed said, so many boys died in my arms, saying their mother's name, you know?
Yeah.
Ah, man. Hey, you're getting way ahead of us there. Look at,
I'm just looking at see, they're all for franc, but and then when the war runs there, then they're selling them over in Germany now, 25 Finnick.
oh, see, you would notice
But
that,
now,
and I wouldn't.
today, over there in Europe, today, they're 25 cents for a Stars and Stripes.
Really?
Same way in Tokyo, 25 cents.
Well, by Friday, February 2nd, 45, 35 miles from Berlin, 3 divisions break into West Wall. 510 Bataan veterans freed in daring raid. Goebbels admits 11th hour at hand. Nazis rush reserves to the outer line. You see how the headlines are changing? Huh?
Yeah, yes.
By then? Shorter Japan war seen by quick shift of ETO men. Where were you guys? I'd like to know where all you guys were when you first heard about the A-bomb. Where were you, Red?
I was already out. I got discharged. I came back from Europe with the point system.
Oh, A.B. the Grand Prix talked a lot about the point system.
Well, I had high points. I was one of the first ones to come back. Flew back.
How did you get these points? Explain that to me.
Well, your time overseas, your time in the service, if you had any kids, they all added up. They had a system going.
Combat time, combats, and like in the
Whatever, combat
Pacific,
time and-
I got credit for Guam and Iwo Jima and the time in. And I didn't have enough. I wanted to stay there. That's when they formed. When the war was over, they formed the 1st Marine Brigade that they sent to China. And I wanted to get in that first. I don't know why. Thank God.
Who knows all these years
Thank
later?
God that I didn't get into it, because I knew a couple of my buddies that didn't get into it, and they threw that 1st Marine Brigade right into a big, in China, where they got the hell kicked out of them.
Yeah.
They threw them right in like a revolution.
Isn't that amazing? Where were you when they?
I was in Philadelphia, Navy Yard, board ship, just getting ready to go out.
Did you understand, any of you understand what this A-bomb really was at the time? Huh?
They said,
All you knew it was a heck of a big bomb.
yeah, they said a thing big as round as a baseball could destroy a battleship.
We heard conflicting stories that it was big, and yet some said it was small, and we really didn't know what it was.
All you knew was it did the job at the time.
I was ready out. I came back at this job. War was still going on with Japan. I got out at Dick's. They wanted us to stay. We said, no, we ain't staying. No, I was in New Jersey when they dropped the A-bomb.
Well, you weren't the threat. You didn't have the threat over your head of having to maybe go back to Japan, because a lot of the guys who were in the service thought they were going to Japan.
I was.
Oh,
I too. They were using, I seen the plans.
Getting ready to go.
Oh yeah.
They were using the whole 6 Marine divisions plus the 77th Army. They were hitting Japan in 7 different places. I actually seen those plans.
It would have been a mess. They'd have lost a lot of people
It would
over
have
there.
been the bloodiest thing I'd ever seen.
No, my brother was over there. He was with the 98th Division. He was going in on the first wave. He was with the 98 when they dropped the bomb, and he got... Yeah, my brother, he was in 98. They were ready to go in. They were going to get knocked off if they
were
went
going to
in.
hit it, boy, and they were going to hit it hard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it didn't happen, and
didn't, you think,
that's
Martin?
when Americans back home learned how to pronounce Hiroshima, as we called it then. Later, they called it Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And we learned the name of the Enola Gay, and had seen so many interviews and so many things since that time.
Well, we got over there, about 8-9 months after.
Did you?
In Hiroshima, yeah. And it was weird. It was like a city. It looked like they just cleaned it out. It was just the foundations, and every once in a while there'd be a building stuck up or a smokestack. It looked like somebody went through with a great big broom and just knocked everything down. Everything cleaned out. There wasn't no rubble laying
They
around.
were going to hit one more island before Japan.
Yep.
Chichijima was the next hot spot.
Yep. Oh boy, that bomb did a job, I'll tell you. Wow.
So here's
There was
we're
nothing
into
to clean up afterwards.
into February here. Big 3 map victory drive at Black Sea Conference. Look at here talk about the big 3 right there. Look at this. Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt all together. I'll never forget as a small child when it came on the radio that FDR had died.
Yeah.
What an impact they had. And I didn't feel that same feeling again until I was on the radio. Somebody handed me something from the teletype, and I had to read that President Kennedy had been shot many, many years later. Huh?
Yeah, that was
Here we are on March 3rd. Night smashes into Rhine. Patton forces seize Trier. Dusseldorf area, scene of fighting. First extends gains. And here's a familiar face to anybody who was around during that time period. Our youngsters have never heard of him, but there he is, General Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle.
Big Charlie.
boy, he was a big one too.
He was a big guy, and you know, when I started, he was, of course, still alive when I was in high school and college trying to learn how to speak French, and he was the only Frenchman I could understand. I couldn't understand my teacher, but the way he spoke was so clear in French, I could actually understand what he was talking about. Here we go. Now, where are we now? I think we're on March 7th. What the heck would Nancy Edition mean? It's in the European Theater of Operation Stars and Stripes, and it says Nancy Edition. And it's in German on the other side, so it must have some special meaning. And I'm sure that right after this program is aired, somebody's going to tell us what Nancy means in that context. But the headline is Yanks Capture Cologne. Huh? Patton's armor hurdles 32 miles and drive to the Rhine. I mean, RAF, Heavies blast Salzburg oil plant. Danes snafu all army trained. White flags flutter from homes in Cologne. Oh, look at this. Listen to this. Winnie autographs shell in Rhineland. Prime Minister Churchill, in a speech made in German soil, said today, "Soon we shall be across the Rhine. Anyone can see that one good strong heave all together will end the war in Europe." Huh? The Prime Minister also chalked on a giant shell the words Hitler personally. Wow. I never knew that until this very moment. And then he saw the 240 millimeter projectile blasted from the gun toward one of the main German escape routes across the Rhine. Is that powerful or what? And he wrote on there, like some of our guys did for Osama bin Laden, right? Oh, boy. Well, there it is. Wednesday, March 7th, 1945, in big headlines, Cologne falls. First Army takes city 24 hours after entry. Oh, man. And were any of you guys in Europe during the Nuremberg war trials? You were back home by then, after the war?
Oh, I was back, yeah.
I watched them on television.
Did you?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I think almost to every aspect, from the start to the finish, at one time or another.
They've put them on from one time or another. I learned a lot about it from my friend, the late Charlie Gwinnett, who lived up on Ruger Street. Charlie was an MP during the Nuremberg war trials, and he told me what it was like to stand out there, stand guard during the trials, and he gave me a real liberal education about that. All right, here we are, March 16th, 7th and 3rd attack in Saar. First Army closing on Super Road. Bastogne heroes of the 101st Airborne win Presidential Division citation. We lost our good friend John Bacon, one of the North Country's most famous paratroopers from the 101st. 7th in Würzburg, Patton 150 miles from Berlin. This is April 4th, 1945. I don't think you want to show that on television. It says, publicity. Shows 4 scantily clad ladies, and it says 5 shapely movie starlets play strip poker. No, we're not going to show that.
Red was in that. Red was in that game.
I was playing it.
You were in that game, huh?
I was in that game, yeah. Oh, yeah. I started the game.
Sunday, April 22nd, 1945. Red shell Berlin's heart. They've got actual photographs. Now, think of what communication was like. You talked about how long it took a newspaper to get to you, or a letter, right?
Oh, yeah, letter, yeah.
Didn't even know your own father had died.
That's right.
Until you were over there, what, a month?
At least a month, oh, yeah.
Month? Nowadays, we've got some of our esteemed Fox CNN reporters who are standing there when the guns are being fired, and they're broadcasting live and ducking behind things so they won't get hit by a mortar shell. Far cry, huh? From those days.
V-mail, he used to call it V-mail. V-mail.
V-mail.
That didn't make any difference.
No.
As far as the time limit.
No.
And you had to be careful what you wrote, because somebody was going to read that V-mail before it got sent back, right? Did you send a lot of V-mail?
Right home.
You?
Oh, yeah.
Central, all that stuff.
Oh, it was. Right there, they'd send them into the post office, and they'd run on a machine. It'd be a little roll like a film. There'd be 10,000 letters in there. That's how they mail it back. And then they'd develop it all by post office.
When they got over here, then they'd redevelop it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
Is that how it worked?
They would tell you that they got letters, and it'd be half of the letter would be cut out.
Oh, sure. I've seen some of those censored letters.
Oh, I had to censor a lot of mail when I was in Italy. They sent me over, me and a few guys over the east coast of Italy to censor a lot of mail. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm saying.
Then there were
GIs are really sending letters to their wife, really telling them some good stuff.
Oh, boy.
And
there
let
were-
it go through.
Let her go.
Not tell them where you, mainly is you don't want them to tell them where you're at, that's all.
Aha. And what was coming up tomorrow. And there were recordings. Once in a while you could go into a place and have a little recording made. And some of those recordings survived. They were sent through the mail. There were 78 RPM recordings made on, I don't know what the surface would have been. It was almost like cardboard. You'd only play it about once or twice, but at least somebody back home could put it on the Victrola
Oh,
and hear
yeah?
what it just sounded like. I've seen a couple of those. 3rd of Berlin Falls, Patton near Austria, Wednesday, April 25th, 1945.
You should have let him go.
Yeah, Allies, here it is. Sunday, August 12th, 1945, Allies accept Jap offer. If Hirohito will bow to control, reply waited. We all know what happened in that deal. See, world waits, argues over Hirohito.
There's one.
Here's the one we got to show, because this is Tuesday, August 14th, 1945. What a day. I was about 8 years old, and the word came into my school when this happened, and I can remember to this moment the teachers jumping on the desks and Kate Smith singing God Bless America on the radio, and Walter Winchell and Gabriel Heater on the radio telling us what was going on, and John R. Murrow, right? Edward R. Murrow. I keep calling him John. Edward R. Murrow. Yeah. Talk about smoking cigarettes. That guy smoked. I remember on television in the early Kennedy days when he did a tour of the White House, and the smoke was so thick you could hardly see Jackie. Boy, that was a headline, huh?
That was big.
That's one of the biggest headlines you will ever see on a newspaper anywhere, and with good reason. Japan announced acceptance of the Allied surrender terms today. And, you know, October 3rd, Patton relieved of command on his way out, sharing the salute of a paratrooper guard with General Eisenhower. Ike shifts him to head of the 15th Army. So much controversy, right, at this time in our history.
Yeah,
So much controversy.
that shouldn't have been.
Oh, my.
The war was over, and a lot of that I don't think should have happened, but it happened. And
Well, he was no politician.
that's it.
Anybody?
He wanted to go kick their butt.
Anybody who's ever been to the Philippines knows that story very well, that's for sure. Look at this, gold, silver war loot found hidden in the Bank of Japan vaults. War cost Navy 701 vessels. Isn't that an amazing? I mean, a Navy man would appreciate that. Of these, 157 were major first-line fighting ships, the remainder auxiliaries and amphibious craft. The main combatant losses included 2 battleships, the famous Arizona that we all know about, the Oklahoma, both lost at Pearl Harbor, 5 aircraft carriers, 6 escort carriers, 7 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, 71 destroyers, 11 destroyer escorts, and 52 submarines. Isn't unbelievable when you get the numbers in front
You'll stop
of you.
and figure, too, out of those 52 submarines, that if there was probably 100 survivors out of the whole bunch, that'd be something.
Oh,
If there were that many.
there probably weren't that many.
Yeah, probably not.
That's sub-duty. That never turned my crank.
I don't know how. I don't know if any of our viewers have ever been aboard a surviving World War II submarine.
I have been through several of them.
As have I.
And when I was down at Newport, Rhode Island, when I first went in the service, they used to come in there and test their tubes. And, of course, I was on guard duty at the time, and we'd get permission to go through these. And I would want no part of them.
If you had the slightest bit of claustrophobia,
Forget it.
just the thought of going below the ocean in that
Never ask them a
tin
question.
can, and I know guys who signed up for that duty.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Don't
it was,
you?
It was money.
Yeah, it was money.
Would they pay a submariner about 70% more than a regular Navy guy got?
He earned every bit of it, I think.
70% of $21 was.
He could have it. He could have it.
Think about it. I know, submarine, and they were way smaller. To a little kid, of course, I thought a submarine was the biggest craft in the world. And, you know, I weighed just about what I weigh now the first time I went aboard one of those things, and I could barely get through. And I looked at those bunks stacked up, and
That's what
I
I can
said,
remember asking a guy, where in God do you guys sleep? And he started pulling out racks under torpedoes, on top of torpedoes.
everywhere. They had racks and hammocks everywhere. Boy, here's another headline. Oh, boy, look at this one. December 22nd, 1945, General Patton dies. End is peaceful, death brought on by lung infection. Patton's spunk wins praise of McNarney. U.S. policy will delay China GIs. 18-year-olds to fill the draft. Huh? Oh, boy.
Something else I ought to bring back.
It's amazing how many memories come with these old newspapers when you look at them. This is December 23rd, 1945. Patton to be buried in Luxembourg. Allied leaders joined in tribute to General Patton. Marshall reaches the scene of the parley. U.S. storms slow ETO mail. Oh, boy. Severe storms in the U.S. seriously disrupting commercial and Army airline schedules, responsible for the fact that mail for ETO troops has been scarce during the past 4 days. Oh, boy. Truman and Ike send greetings, Christmas greetings to men and women in the armed forces in every part of the world. What do you guys remember about the USO?
The only time I seen any USO on Guam was Roy Rogers and his horse Tricker.
Come
Believe it or
on.
not, honest to God, that's it.
They brought the horse?
The horse was there.
You've got to be kidding me.
The horse was there.
Never mind his wife, Roy and the horse.
Yeah, Roy Rogers and his horse Tricker. That's they were some other people there too, but that
None of you
stands
guys
out
ever
in
saw
my-
Bob
in
Hope
my
when you,
mind. No,
when
I
you were
never seen
overseas?
Bob Hope.
No.
No.
Any USO shows at all? No?
The only one who I saw was boot camp. I mean, we were all by ourselves on a ship. There were only 120 people, so we weren't any bases or anything, you know. So.
So just weren't
I
around.
seen Humphrey Bogart in Naples.
Did you really?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
pretty
He
good.
came to our unit, yeah.
Bogey was there, huh?
No, I seen Humphrey, yeah.
He was smoking cigarettes too, wasn't he?
Oh, I guess.
Yeah, they got him.
He's not with us either anymore, is he, huh? Oh, boy. So this last one is December 24th. Hey, we're back to Christmas Eve.
again.
U.S., Britain, except Yugoslav Republic. Panama pins uprising on ex-president.
The spelling.
Yep.
Yugo.
Yep. Church service pays final tribute to Patton. And I don't know, here's a story down here that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about, but the headline caught my eye. Man misses bus, falls into manhole. Firemen rescued a 45-year-old man yesterday who slipped while running for a bus in a crowded snow-covered Madison Avenue area and plunged 40 feet down a sewer manhole open to aid snow removal. Carried 25 feet through an accumulation of snow and slush at the bottom of the sewer. Hans P. Hertz of Chappaqua, New York. I used to live right near there. Hans P. Hertz of Chappaqua managed to cling to a wall projection and remain conscious during his 20-minute ordeal. I would imagine when he was going down there, he was saying very things like, holy mackerel.
He probably owns half of New York City. Yeah.
You know what? Any other stories come to mind, guys, before we wrap it up here today? I must say, this has been so much fun. I didn't mean to make you miss your nap, Red, but you know.
Come on.
This guy swam a mile today, and he'll swim a mile tomorrow when we're all taking our own naps.
That's right.
But, you know, I think we've learned something here today. We've learned that those memories aren't very far away. All it takes is a newspaper or somebody's mentioning a date or a time, and instantly you're right back there, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, right.
Only problem is names. I'll never be a politician. I can't remember names.
Nor will I, and thank God for Calvin when we're doing this show, because he gives me the names. We sat down with A.B. de Grand Prix, and he showed us 138 slides. And he apologized because he got some date wrong. And I said, are you kidding me? He remembers 5,000 names of everybody he was ever stationed with, and every place, and everywhere he went on leave. And unbelievable. Because I've never been very good on the names.
Yeah, old Doc, he come up real good. He used to be down the Y with me in the mornings, maybe 15 years ago. He used to come down in the morning about 8 o'clock. I was swimming twice a day then. And in the sauna, he'd come to the sauna. And before that, he wore a bathrobe and he'd go out to the pool and they'd swim. They'd swim one lap out of the pool, bathrobe, back to the sauna, read the paper, and I'd be in there and we'd talk about different things.
Isn't
That's
that
right.
amazing?
Oh, I know the doc real good. I had a lot of fun with
He's
him.
an amazing and wonderful guy, and he was still playing golf last summer at 92. And every once in a while, I'd go up to Arnie's to get a bowl of spaghetti, and he'd make it up the stairs.
Oh.
I figured, I said, Doc, as long as we can make it up the stairs, I guess we're going to live till morning. What a guy. Clarence Kelly, thanks for being with us here today and sharing your stories with us.
Thank you, Gordy. And
I really,
I
really,
had a good time here this
really
afternoon.
appreciate it, and I'm sure West Plattsburgh was proud of you and still is. Red, old buddy, old buddy, old buddy, you're the best. You're the Rock of Gibraltar. Don't ever let me down.
I won't.
Bill
no more.
Vogt, yeah, it was only about 10 minutes late. No big deal.
Not too bad.
Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
I can't wait. Now, if Bill gives up cigarettes, he'll be around, probably outlast all of us. I don't know. Who knows?
I'll never last him.
We thank you all.
He's mean.
We thank you all for looking at our program, Our Little Corner. This is our contribution toward preserving history. It's important that we do. If those of you out there want to find out a little bit more about this Veterans History Project, just log on to the website. If anybody needs more information, call me. If you're a teacher in a grade school or a high school, a college, or any other institution, if you've got a tape recorder or a video recorder, go and talk to these guys while they're still with us, and we can enjoy each other's company and share a good laugh. While the stories are still here, get the stories firsthand. We enjoy Brokaw's book, but guess what? Hearing the stories right here, out of the mouths of babes, these young guys, that's the way to preserve history. So do it on your own. If you know of anybody else who'd like to chat with us, by all means, come and do that. In the meantime, thank you to Mr. Gary Chartrand, who shared with us these front pages of all these stars and stripes for 1944, 45, and 46. It was something to hang our hats on today and make a good program. Thank you all again for watching and for supporting Hometown Cable in Our Little Corner. And who knows where we're going to be next time for Our Little Corner.